All right, this is a reading help video for Chapter 13, Section 3. The title of this lesson is New Challenges in 1848. So think about that. We just beat Mexico for the rest of Texas, and then also California and some of the southwestern states. So now we have a lot more land to deal with. So if we're looking at this pie chart here, you can see this is what we had. This we gained Texas. This is the Oregon country from the treaty that we made with Great Britain, and this is the rest of the land that we got from Mexico as a result. So that's when Texas joined the Union. That's compromising and treaties, and this is as a result of the War of 1848. So we gained a lot of lands, as you can see, as a result within a short amount of time. Now, what do we do with that? Questions we'll be asking is what happened in the election of 1848. We'll be looking at the word professional, a professional who is skilled or trained to do a task, like I am a professional teacher, or there's professional lawyers. Fortune seeker, one who is looking for financial gain. So we're looking at gold and land and things to make some bucks, and not like the deer. Question, how did California become important? You can see miners or 49ers labored over the California land in search of gold. Most of them ended up with nothing. And now we'll be doing the review. So pretty straightforward section. All right, giddy up. Here we go. In addition to the expansion of the United States, President Polk had other goals for the future of the country. He wanted to lower tariffs and acquire California from Mexico. During his 4-year term as president, Polk got what he wanted. Between 1845 and 1848, the United States added more than 800,000 square miles of land. Also, tariffs were lowered. Remember, tariffs are taxes on imports. And there was less government spending. However, even with his successes in office, President Polk refused to run for a second term. If you're looking at this pie chart, by the way, what percentage of U.S. land came from Oregon country? We would say 9%. What percentage of land came from Mexico in 1848? We'd say 18%. What happened in the election of 1848? Americans were excited about the victory over Mexico and about the land that had been added. New land, however, meant new problems. The biggest problem was the possible spread of slavery into the western region. Slavery was the most important issue in the election of 1848. However, both the Whigs and the Democrats took limited stands on it. Both parties were unsure how such a stand would affect the success of their candidates in the election. The Whigs nominated General Zachary Taylor. Taylor was a hero, having won an important victory at Buena Vista during the Mexican War. Taylor was a Southerner and would get strong support from slave states. The Democrats nominated Lewis Cass, a Northerner from Michigan. Many Democrats who did not want Cass broke away and formed the Free Soil Party. The Free Soilers chose Martin Van Buren as their candidate for president. The new party favored free speech, free labor, and free men. Zachary Taylor won the election. He received 163 electoral votes, Cass at 127. The Democrats lost the popular vote too. The Free Soilers took votes that would have gone to Cass. The issue of slavery decided the election by splitting the Democratic Party. Taylor took office in 1849. How did California become important? Before the 1840s, most inhabitants are people that live there, of California were Spaniards and American Indians. Swiss-American settler John A. Sutter was one of the first to gain success in California. He owned a large amount of land in a valley north of San Francisco. He built a big fort that travelers used on their way into California. Sutter also grew wheat and corn and had large numbers of cattle, sheep, and horses. He had this kingdom all to himself for most of the 1840s. However, his way of life changed a lot after an event that took place in 1848. One day, a man who worked for Sutter collected a small sack of nuggets and dust he believed was gold. He showed the sack to Sutter. They intended to keep the find a secret. However, by 1849, the message had spread throughout the land and people came from every direction. Towns were formed as laborers, miners, farmers, merchants, professional people, and other fortune seekers rushed into California. The 49ers, named for the year of the gold rush, used every means of transportation possible to reach the gold country. Prices for supplies and services greatly increased. Crime also increased. The output of gold rose to $10 million in 1849. California's population increased from about 15,000 to more than 100,000. Some of those who joined the rush struck it rich, but most of them ended up with nothing. In only slightly more than a year's time, the population of California had increased by nearly 10 times. Cities had sprung up in many regions of the western land. Almost overnight, it had grown to look like part of the United States. Then, in 1850, it became the 31st state. Yay! What do you think? Why do you think the gold rush brought so many people to California? Okay, to discuss this one, you might think about how the fact that since they discovered gold, people wanted to strike it rich, right? And live the American dream, etc. And people like to get rich quick. And so people went there initially, and then they needed other people to give supplies, and that just ended up bringing people very quickly. Then and now, what conditions did immigrants face? In 1850, for example, Irish immigrants faced difficult times. Without money to travel west, they settled in New York slums. Slums are like ghettos or rough parts of town. As Catholics, they were not welcomed by Protestant Americans. Protestants are people that are not Catholics, but still Christians. They took low-paying jobs in factories or as housekeepers. Still, many Irish were able to send money to poor family members in Ireland. In 1850, most immigrants came to the United States from Europe. Today, most immigrants come from Asia or Mexico. In 1850, any healthy European was welcome. Today, immigration is strictly controlled. Immigrants must be accepted before coming. Then they must go through several steps before becoming U.S. citizens. All right, that's it for this section.